Hey, Jenny, thanks for coming on the show today. Excited to have you. Over the past couple years, you've been working with Built by Krueger and many of our clients on the construction design qualities that go into their home, from all the color selections to material selections. And it's been great to see the outcome of the product that we get to build with you on our team over the past couple years. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Who is Jenny Ackemann?
I have been doing design for about 18 years now. And I was born on the East Coast and really have always been in a design-related community. I've come from a family that owned their own businesses and really worked their way up. My grandparents are actually owned knitting mills.
Wow.
And my mother was brought up in that. And my grandfather actually used to do all knitwear and sold to like LL Bean and all different companies. Wow. And my parents actually started a boutique kind of ski store. From where I grew up in Vermont, I was in a ski town, and my grandfather actually supplied a bunch of the sweaters that my parents sold. And I got to always help out with displays and marketing and selling different things in the store, and always kind of started to have an eye of design and wanting to kind of
what looks good together.
Put things together and place things. And so that started at kind of a young age for me. And my mother has memories of me constantly wanting to redo my room, change things, and make, the layout of our living room. I grew up in a small little Cape house in Vermont and actually got exposed to
and you're a junior in high school at this
Junior
time?
in high school. So I kind of knew that was what I wanted to do. And I went there and got to explore all these museums in the city and see interior design firms, architectural firms, and really get a sense of the whole environment and profession, and knew that I wanted to continue on in that direction. Yeah. So,
and you went off to school at the New York
Institute of Technology. Yeah. So I actually did the school that I went to for design. My degree is in interior design, but your first 2 years where you were with architects and interior design students. And so I was up many, many hours of pulling all-nighters, building chipboard models, and really learn more of just the exterior of the building, and then kind of also work into the interior. So I worked, I was in classes with architect students for up until my junior year of high school or college, and then you decided which direction to go, and I decided to keep with the interior design.
All right.
So
why the interior over the architectural side?
So I realized that the industry, a lot of my professors actually were architects in Manhattan, and they actually pushed a lot of people more into interior design than architecture, mainly because there's just a ton of architects, and it's kind of a profession where it's sometimes hard to be successful because there's just an overflow of them. And coming from a school where you have an architectural background and understanding of how things can be built, and a sense of style and direction of the interior together, is somewhat rare and is more desirable in an actual professional field. So that was kind of the direction I chose.
From a builder's perspective, we work with architects who try and tackle the whole thing, right? From the exterior architectural to the interior design to the landscaping design, and they're a full turnkey architectural provider. Sometimes I can see that it's not a great idea to have the architect working on the interior? Because I think they focus a lot more on the architecture, and they don't know about all the modes and all the newest textiles and materials and keeping up on things like an interior designer does.
Absolutely.
So we really we work with both, but I prefer the client experience to really have a dedicated professional.
Yep.
Just like, hey, you have the architect, you have your interior designer, and you have your builder.
Yep.
There's some architects who act like a builder, but I think if you get an expert in each one of those areas, that's where a successful project really comes together.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like I always wish that would be more true to each project of having those set things. There is a stigma between architects and interior designers. I never have understood it that we just don't work more as a team. A lot of architects want to be separate than designers, and they really are two different fields, and I think should be more incorporated. There are so many plans that I end up reviewing that sometimes I feel like I wish I would have been brought in earlier, because I'm visually thinking about what the interior can become, and sometimes it's too late because the project is past that part. Yes. Yeah. And then I'm having to deal with, a change that the client wasn't actually even aware of, that the architect hadn't brought in, brought to their attention. And then I wish I would have been able to catch that sooner for them. Yeah. So I always hope, and I've worked with architects that they love designers and we work really well together. And I always really enjoy that, where it's not this clear defined line of sticking to each other's lanes, that we're able to kind of integrate and really play off of each other and really make sure that the client is getting a good end result of what they want. Because the interior is just as important as the exterior, if not more, if it was my... because that's really where you're living is in that interior space. So I think that's really important.
I think bringing the building team together earlier in the process is always beneficial, because the architect is working on the exterior and the layouts and the floor plans, and the interior designer can hear the client a little differently and say, hey, if we just tweak this bathroom a little bit, I think it's going to give that effect. If we just move this, if we can extend this kitchen wall, we're going to be able to accommodate what they want to do in the kitchen.
For sure.
And so some of those things catching earlier on, like you said, is great.
Yeah. So. I think too that a lot of clients sometimes are not as confident of understanding what's even possible on the exterior. Yeah. They really are leaning on the architect to really show them all the products and also, structural stuff that is just not anything that they're knowledgeable on, where interior clients tend to at least have a little bit more of a direction and have done some of their research of things that they know that they really want, regardless if it's a big island in their kitchen, or if they really want a natural stone somewhere, or they're able to give a little bit more input, where I feel like as an interior designer, I always end up finding out a lot more of how the client lives, probably faster than an architect does, just because we're so close to each other right from the start, and they have to be somewhat real with me of really how you live and function in that space. So that's probably one of my favorite parts of design, is as much as I love the colors and the textiles and finishes and everything, I really like working with a client and figuring out how they are going to truly live in the space and function, and making sure that it fits their needs of what they're wanting.
What's your technique to get to that point with your clients?
So a lot of times in the beginning, I'm always open to getting people to show me ideas and concept of things that they like, but I'm very specific. I like to be very specific with them, that show me things that you also know that you don't like. And a lot of people sometimes are like, isn't that wasting your time? And I think it's really helpful to have an idea of making a person sit and focus on what is it that you specifically like in this Pinterest kitchen. And you'll be surprised that the client sometimes has no idea of what actually they're liking. They may like the whole thing, or it may come down to, I really only like the faucet and this finish of a hood. And ideally, like I would have thought that they liked this whole look of this space. So I like to put some pressure on a client of giving me, as hard as it can be, some concepts and ideas of things that you love and you hate. Colors, I tend to ask them too, of, if you have a favorite color or colors that you want to make sure you're not including in your home, and then really function. And, and it depends on the client themselves. So I've worked with families, younger kids, they may have different resources for, things that they need to accomplish in different rooms. So they may have more multi-function spaces where right now this may be used as a playroom, but down the road, they may have it turn it into an office or, so I'm trying to always get a sense of what their needs are for the space before I start to really dive into a design with them. It sometimes can be challenging because I think, especially in like a new build, a lot of people, it's so many questions and things that they're trying to decide up front, and they realize that they have no idea what they really want.
Yeah. Do you have like a questionnaire, or do you have a list of what do you provide them to help frame the information that you need?
I have done questionnaires before. I've had some success with them. I feel like sometimes that it's just too on the spot for them, that they feel pressured and they actually want me to help figure out more of what they're wanting. Yeah. So it's more me just working and just having more of an open communication with them than just having them answer generic questions. I wish that the questionnaires would work better, because I feel like sometimes you go full circle on some certain areas that if they could be more direct, but that's hard.
We've done it. We have a custom home questionnaire, and it's pretty helpful. Yeah. If you know what we're asking. Yeah. We'll be like, how interested are you in a de-superheater? Yeah. And they're like, what's a de-superheater? Like, well, it's part of your air source heat pump and your geothermal system, and they're just like, I don't know. Yeah. And so it's getting to the point. It's like, you gotta understand where your customer is at in their knowledge. Yep. And some of them don't have any, and some of them have way too much that you're like, wow, I better go do some research because I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah. But with building, so. One of the things that I like to differentiate with an interior designer is how you work on a new construction or a construction project team versus the interior design. Okay. Okay. Because I think some people think an interior designer is throw pillows and couches. And that's one aspect, and that's what brings it home. But I think the first stage is that, hey, we're creating the palette, which I don't know, how would you differentiate the construction design from the interior pillows and throws?
So I will say, coming from being an interior designer and then sometimes being associated as an interior decorator is probably one of the biggest insults that I would ever take. So I actually have a client currently right now where they always, I bite my tongue, but they always say interior decorator. Okay. And it's hard for me to take that. Okay. Let's be honest. It's a degree that I went to college for, and I'm proud of what I've done and the knowledge that I have on it, that they are very, very different. So as an interior designer, you're able to read all construction plans. You're able to put together construction sets. Other than as an architect, obviously, in regards to structural of building a home, there's certain things that I am knowledgeable to and have a limit. But in regards to the flow of a house, the rooms, everything, I'm thinking about the proportions, the sizing of how everything's going to actually work and function in the house and the space, and keeping in mind the finishing touches, like, for example, where a floor outlet could go in the space. Mm-hmm. It's important to be incorporating really how furniture is going to fit into that space. But the hard materials in the house of what's going to always be there are priority over that.
With your clients, because you do support on the softer side of the, I don't want to insult, so the interior design finishing phase, not decorator, but the interior design finishing phase, like, hey, they want you to pick out their sofas. They want you to select some new artwork, some, those finishing touches. What part of the interior design do you prefer, or do you love to see?
I definitely think that more of everything that's kind of attached to the home. So I would consider anything like furniture, art, all of that's kind of its own thing because it's movable. So anything that's attached to the home. So, the layout of the kitchen, the bathrooms, the lighting, the tile, wallpaper, any of that kind of thing that's really going to always stay with the home. That's probably my favorite aspect of the whole job. Mainly because a lot of people sometimes have a whole style that they want to achieve for the house, for hard surfaces throughout the house and the exterior and a look. And then if it's a modern home, they might love that whole style of the modern home, but then they see options of furniture that they've seen in magazines of a modern home, and they actually really don't love
the furniture,
the styles of that type of furniture. So it's interesting to see how people change from the looks and then are wanting to merge different styles, where I think that actually happens more through the soft goods in your homes, that you can incorporate other designs in through the soft goods. But I like doing all of that. But my favorite aspect of design is really the, function and flow of the house, and really any kind of materials that are going to always be with the house that then can be stylized with whatever type of furniture and finishes that you're wanting to do that are changeable in the house.
What is your preferred design style?
That's a really hard question. So I feel like when...
You only get to pick one. I said your favorite.
I don't. So if I would probably say that I'm eclectic is my answer, because I have laughed that over the years, I've had some clients that I actually have just finished a job recently of a lady who I was really concerned about her design style in the beginning, and it felt very, very more traditional to me than I'm used to. And I don't feel like I'm that much of a traditional person. I like some more antique kind of things, but love adding pops of modern or different aspects into that. And I classified her style as a granny whimsical look. And in the beginning, I really was struggling. And what we came up with, every time I go and visit her house now, it really makes me happy. And I she realized that she really made me open up of wow, this really worked, this style. And you have a lot of antiques in here, but we have some fun modern fabrics that just change it up. So it's been fun seeing other styles that normally I wouldn't classify myself at actually being able to take on and design for other people. But for my personal self, my husband would tell everyone that I go back and forth. I think from having, seeing all the options that are out there and designing things for people that have a modern, more of a traditional or a transitional style, I am very horrible at doing it for myself because I can never make up my mind of what I really want because I love it all.
So you need to hire a designer for your house.
I need to hire a designer for my own house to help me zone in on my ideas. But I will say, as I've gotten older and been doing more design, I realize how I keep blossoming into new design styles where probably first out of school, I wouldn't have liked them as much. Yeah. And I've realized how you really can incorporate different aspects of different styles into other houses. So, and I actually really like that. I really don't like always having just a super modern house where I feel like if you go so modern, it can feel really cold by not having other elements brought into it. And, you could have a modern, I worked on one house up in Steamboat that was a very, very modern exterior, but we had pops of color and antiques that we brought into it. And it just had this charm that was added to the house, but which really didn't make it feel, it had, giant windows, views of the mountain, but it felt very cozy. And I think sometimes in modern homes, everyone loves what it looks like from the exterior, but that coziness is kind of lost in the interior.
Okay.
And that's where I think in the soft goods, that's a way that you can kind of incorporate and add in some warmth into a space like that has big windows and natural light.
So tell me about one of your most exciting projects that you told us about the Granny Eclectic, but what's another, just one that you're like, man, I call my mom and tell her about this job because it's so cool.
I feel like this, the one job that comes to my mind that's just funny, I think it's just mainly because I'm going to miss working with this couple, but the Arapahoe job was just such a pleasant couple to work with and very easygoing, but they were very good at communicating throughout the whole job and really let me have some fun even on kind of a strict budget. And it was really fun to be at that welcome party the other week with them and just see how happy they were and the trust that they gave me to be able to just bring in some little elements that were going to be weren't necessarily in budget, but weren't adding a ton of cost to the job. And
give me an example of something that you did over there.
They rescue cats, older cats and dogs.
Yeah. And
that was a common theme that they kept bringing up to me throughout working with them. And I got to meet their cats and their dogs. And throughout putting that whole scheme together for that house, it was more of a modern design. But they wanted really kind of easy maintenance of materials throughout it because they have dogs and cats and older. And they kind of have it that it's set up that the main level is like the dog level and the second level is mainly for the cats. So we were trying to just incorporate some fun material. So for example, in the powder room, we have a really fun cat and dog colorful wallpaper that is just like
it looks so
super, cool. super fun. And I remember when I first found that, I was nervous to think if it was too funky for them, and they really just loved it. Yeah. And it was just in that house too. I tend to have a lot of clients sometimes that are wanting everything to be so neutral and are somewhat afraid of color. And that was something where that house in different phases, I definitely had moments of being worried of, did we make this right choice? Because as things were getting installed, everything didn't jive with each other at first.
Yeah.
And it was a little nerve-wracking because they trusted me. And then at the end, it was just so fun to see how everything kind of came together. So we always had pops of blue that were kind of happening.
Yeah.
And just the trust that they gave me. And that's really hard for clients to work up to give and to really trust the process that like, I have done this for a long time. I make mistakes sometimes, but if you need to trust the process of getting to the end result. And they were very, very supportive the whole entire time. So that one is just on my mind right now.
That's cool.
And they were just a sweet, sweet couple. And I really hope that they enjoy that house.
Oh, yeah. No, it's so fun. It's so fun. It's great when everybody loves working on projects with great clients, right? That really do trust you. As a builder, they really trust us, and they really say, we don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah. Like, what kind of materials should we use, and what works within the budget that we can still get an effect of what we want. Yeah. And you got to cross that trust threshold. Yes. With these clients. Jobs that you can't cross that trust threshold are so much harder, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot. That is a hard process. And, I've realized though over the years that I definitely have clients that are harder to deal with, but it's really fun as the project moves along of seeing them second guess some choices and then coming back and being like, wow, we came full circle and now we're on the same page as you. And then I can see them start to release and give me that trust. And it's been fun to actually prove myself to a client and get them to realize that, I know what you're wanting. You're communicating with me. And the more that you are communicating to me, the quicker we're going to get there. So if you are hating something,
you got to speak up.
You need to speak up. You're not going to insult me. It's your house. Yeah. And if you show me something and I absolutely hate it,
don't be offended.
But even if they know they want it and I hate it, but this is something that like I can tell that this light fixture is like no matter what they want, I'm going to figure out a way to make that work in the rest of the design. And that's something that I recently have had too happen to me, where I've had a couple of light fixtures that I would have never selected them ever, but I was forced out of my comfort zone to make that work for the client, and I came full circle and I loved the light fixture by the end of the job. Yeah. And I never would have selected it, which I think that part of this industry is always really eye-opening to me of how much I'm still always learning. And I'm learning from my clients too, of them pushing me out of my normal comfort zone of projects, which is fun and enjoyable.
That's cool. Yeah. Great. Thanks for listening to Built by Insights. Tune in next Friday to hear the second episode.